Hi guys, in this episode I was going to head off and talk about something else exciting in Chinese medicine, but I got to thinking about it and decided to swing back around to fatigue one more time. It's great learning about foods and knowing there's foods out there you can eat that will support your fatigue and recovery, but what happens when you get tired of eating couscous, right? What do you do then?
Hi, my name's Kim and I'm a specialized Chinese medical provider and Taoist practitioner, and this channel is all about you, sharing with you information and solutions from the ancient Chinese cabinet of healing remedies and helping you figure out how to use those solutions in your everyday life.
I'm going to give you some focused food hacks on how to make your best food selections using the wisdom of Chinese nutritional therapy. This information is going to help you overcome your fatigue and expand your meal planning.
So this isn't my first bout with fatigue. In fact, about 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue, and it took me 3 to 4 years to get over it, but you can get over it. The thing is with these really hardcore, weird diseases like chronic fatigue, after you get over it, your system is never as strong as it used to be. So if you run into another huge stressor, it's really easy to fall right back into chronic fatigue. And so this is my second time around, and to learn more about my story, check out my book on Amazon.com, Caregiver Survival Guide, How to Get Over Stress in 30 Minutes with Chinese Medicine and Other Useful Tools. But, you know, it's 20 years later, I have a lot more tool sets, I have a lot more knowledge. I'm 2.5 years into this, and I'm starting to feel really good again. So if I can do it, I know you can do it. And just that you're here, I know you're going to make it to the other side.
The cool thing about food selection is the concepts are based on 5-element theory, and I was working with Dr. Liu out of Minnesota, who first introduced me to the depths of systems thinking in 5-element theory. He got me exploring the relationships and interactions nature imparts to our food and how we use them. And he reawoke that knowledge I had lost. And without that knowledge, Chinese nutritional therapy becomes a task of memorization. And all of us can have this knowledge. It's just that many of us have walked so far away from nature that most of the information is no longer second nature. But if you love gardening or growing flowers, you've already created your foundation for understanding the 5-element theory and the cornerstone to taking care of yourself. Okay, so let's get started with an example. Iceberg lettuce. I did not know you could grow this in late fall, early winter in the Pacific Northwest. And I didn't realize this until I was driving by a vegetable nursery in late fall when the rains had come back and the weather had cooled. And the field was filled with this green stuff, and I had to ask what it was. It was iceberg lettuce. I had no idea this plant could grow in the fall. I mean, corn can't, tomatoes can't. All my vegetables stop growing in the fall. And just seeing that field of iceberg lettuce got me thinking that I could manage my garden in a similar way to how I manage my flowers. I plant flowers that flower at different times, so I have flowers all year round. Imagine having fresh vegetables all year round. Yet, looking at the 5-element theory, the nature of iceberg lettuce would be cold, not only because it grows in a cooler season, but also because it's full of water, and water is associated with the kidneys and with cooling, and the kidneys are thought to help nourish the brain in Chinese medicine. Hey, and doesn't iceberg lettuce look like the brain? Because of its light color, green, it could also help cool off the liver channel. So if you're known as a hothead, iceberg lettuce could help. So I'm going to give you some of the 5-element concepts to look for in foods if you want to reduce your fatigue. But before I do that, let me share one more thought with you.
You may have heard in Chinese nutritional therapy, they always say cook your foods. Well, it's not that black and white. They say cook your foods because when you cook foods, it starts to break the foods down. So you need less energy and less enzymes in order to digest the foods. And especially when you're dealing with something like fatigue, you don't have a lot of energy. So cook your foods. But if you're young, you're vibrant, you have all these digestive enzymes, then you can eat raw foods. and not have a problem. And in general, if you're basically healthy, you can eat raw foods. It's just that if you're going to be dealing with a serious disease or a serious illness, then cook your foods so that you save your energy for the healing. Okay, let's hit it. I am going to give you some general eating tips to help you make better food selections to reduce your fatigue. And these suggestions are not going to be accurate 100% of the time, but they're going to be more accurate than they will be wrong. So it's a great starting point.
When you're looking for food choices, color is going to be helpful in choosing foods. Look for foods that are white, yellow, brown, and orange. You saw in Fighting Fatigue and Coming Back from the Edge an example of white foods. The leeks and radishes were white and supported the lung channel. A lot of the squashes are various shades of yellow to orange and help build up the spleen and help build up the blood. In Chinese medicine, they identify a disease called blood deficiency, and part of blood deficiency is lack of proper nutrition in the diet, almost like anemia. But you can be missing a lot more nutrients than just the B's or iron associated with anemia, and squashes seem to be really helpful with missing nutrition. When you look at fruits, the best yellow fruit is pineapples, and we all know about the digestive enzymes packed in pineapples, or pears for a white fruit. Pears do what we call moistening the large intestine, which is very helpful for constipation. And you might be thinking, well, that's not the lungs. Nope, it's not. In Chinese medicine, all organs are identified as yin and yang pairs. The lung is the yin organ and its pair is the large intestine. So in aging, constipation can become a big concern. And from a Chinese medical perspective, many times it's due to weakness in the lung channel. You'll find that strengthening your lungs can do more than just improve your fatigue.
I know, we're talking about food to reduce your fatigue. And you're probably thinking that all processed food is out, and you'd be right. But let's be real, you're fatigued, and making a meal every night is usually too exhausting. I use frozen fruits, frozen vegetables, canned beans, canned vegetables, and I taste test everything that comes in, so I'm kind of a picky eater, and if I don't like how it tastes, I'm not going to eat it. Some things I'm really picky about, some things I'm pretty indifferent to whatever brand I use. Yet, you saw in the episode on how to reduce your fatigue by building up your spleen that I used a can of chickpeas. And what I did is I just opened up the can, threw it under water, rinsed them out, and used them. I'm pretty fortunate to be living in what I consider the berry capital of the world. Every year I'm able to get fresh berries, and what I do is I rinse them off, let them dry, throw them on a cookie sheet, and let them freeze for a couple hours so that they keep their form, and then I throw them into freezer bags. I've tried to vacuum seal berries a number of times, and it's never worked. I've never been able to vacuum seal berries.
The other thing I'll do is slow cook a large pot of beans, and my faves are chickpeas and pinto beans. I love pinto beans because you can make refried beans from them. Another one of my favorites. Both of these beans fit into the category of brown or yellow foods. I'll cool the beans and just leave a little bit of liquid and freeze them in either freezer bags or freezer containers. I don't use glass because they'll break in the freezer. But a slow cooker gives me enough beans for 4 or 5 meals. Remember to date them when you put them in the freezer. It's easy to forget when they went into the freezer. They'll hold for about 3 months. And that leads me to my second wellness coaching tip.
Another way to help reduce your fatigue is by reducing the amount of time you spend in the kitchen. And you can do that by using frozen fruits, frozen vegetables, canned fruits, canned vegetables, canned beans, or even better yet, pre-make a huge batch of beans or vegetables and freeze them and use them over the next few months. Okay, there you have it, an excellent outline to get you started on reducing your fatigue with foods. And the broth for the lungs is an excellent broth to use on a daily basis. The one thing about that one is the shiitakes and the oysters, those can get to be kind of expensive. So don't feel bad if you replace those with just common mushrooms. And the other thing with that is sometimes you can find shiitake mushrooms fairly inexpensively dried. So if you find those, use dried shiitake mushrooms, make sure to soak them, save the water to use in your cooking, and use a lot fewer shiitake mushrooms because for some reason, those are really intense. Okay guys, that's it for this week. And next week I am going to go back into some of the inner soul searching work I do in the Finding Balance series and talk about some of the sacred keys we all have that can help us unlock our inner reality. Until next time, I'll catch you on the other side.